Good morning and welcome to White Bear Unitarian Universalist Church. We are delighted to have you here join us for this virtual service. It is good to be together, a community of youth, adults, and children sharing the values of courage, reverence, and compassion. My name is Kristen. I use the pronouns she, her, and I'm a member of our board of directors. We invite you to join in our virtual social hour that will take place on Zoom beginning at 11 a.m. It will be a 20-minute session of sharing and randomized small groups. Each person will have an opportunity to share a sparklet, an insight, question, new thought that was spurred by the service. Service participants today include Reverend Roger, Worship Associate Molly Ryan, Amy Peterson-Derrick, in addition to myself with behind-the-scenes support from Aaron Scott. Music today is from Laura Stone-Girage and the OK Factor. Welcome to our church. Together, we grow our souls and serve the world in love.
Come into this place, which we make holy by our presence. Come in with all your vulnerabilities and strengths, fears and anxieties, loves and hopes, for here you need not hide, nor pretend, nor be anything other than who you are and who you are called to be. Come into this place where we can touch and be touched, heal and be healed, forgive and be forgiven. Come into this place where the ordinary is sanctified, the human is celebrated, the compassionate is expected. Come into this place. Together, we make it a holy place. I'm Reverend Roger, and my pronouns are he, him, his.
My name is Molly Ryan, and my pronouns are she, her. I spent my early childhood growing up in downtown White Bear Lake, about a block away from the water. My dad was a long-haul truck driver, and my mom stayed home and raised my brother and I. In the summer, we were free range. It was the 80s, and life was good. Things were easy. Occasionally, circumstances would allow for my parents to buy something fun for a season or two. One summer, probably around 1989, I was 11 or so, our family bought a used pontoon and shined it up. My parents had a gigantic American flag, like Perkins on the interstate big. That flag was mounted proudly on the back of the pontoon, and everyone knew when the Ryans were out on the lake. Obviously, we were going to take advantage of this boon and watch the 4th of July fireworks from the boat that year, something that seemed incredibly exciting to me. What a vantage point, how fancy we were. It did feel like we were living the American dream. We had Doritos, sparklers, bug spray. Everything was set. It was going to be perfect. In their excitement, my parents leaned into the more the merrier spirit, and by the time we got to the dock, there was a crowd of aunts, uncles, cousins, and friends. We were most definitely over capacity, and not by just a little. Kids were lined up across the front of the pontoon with our feet dragging in the water as my dad slowly trolled the boat away from the docks. Standing room only. In my mind's eye, we looked cool, carefree, and ready to celebrate America in style under the banner of our enormous American flag on a boat that was ours. What could possibly go wrong? Well, before long, a few too many people shifted ever so slightly forward. The motor groaned, and the front of the boat where I was sitting with my brother and some friends dug into the water like it was trying to scoop up the entirety of the lake in slow motion. Very quickly, everyone acted on the reflex to move to the back of the boat, and that caused an entirely different lurch and a new groan from the motor. People toppled over like they do when they're standing on boats that stop suddenly. In that moment, there was a palpable realization of how uncool this all was. How did nobody see this coming? It was clear that this was just not going to work, despite the best intentions, hopes, and wishes. I don't remember watching the fireworks from the boat that night. I suspect we watched from the shore. I honestly can't remember. When I look back on this bit of family lore now, I think it's an apt analogy for how we want to accept the beloved promise of our American experiment, of our particular flavor of democracy as the gold standard for freedom and equality for all. We so clearly have been avoiding the question of what could possibly go wrong, or, more to the point, why is this going so wrong? Today, I light the chalice for the American experiment. May we continue to examine it with conscience, discernment, and hope.
Please join me in the opening words. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Our opening hymn this morning is Turn the World Around. It's number 1074 in our small teal hymnal. I invite you to rise and body your spirit wherever you are and join in singing 1074.
We come from the fire, living in the fire. Go back to the fire, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in the water. Go back to the water, turn the world around. We come from the mountain, living on the mountain. Go back to the mountain, turn the world around. Whoa, so is life. Ah, so is life. Whoa, so is life. Ah, so is life. Do you know who I am? Do you know who you are? See one another clearly. Do we know who we are? Do you know who I am? Do you know who you are? See one another clearly. Do we know who we are? Whoa, so is life, everybody. Whoa, so is life. Whoa, so is life, everybody. Whoa, so is life. Water make the river, river wash the mountain. Fire make the sunlight, turn the world around. Heart is of the river, body of the mountain. Spirit is the sunlight, turn the world around. We are of the spirit, truly of the spirit. Only can the spirit turn the world around. Whoa, so is life, everybody. Whoa, so is life. Whoa, so is life, everybody. Whoa, so is life.
Good morning. My name is Amy, and my pronouns are she, her. This morning's story is called A Frog in a Shallow Well, and it's told in Harmony, A Treasury of Chinese Wisdom for Children and Parents by Sarah Conover and Chen Wei. Long ago, a frog lived in a shallow well, but he did not know how very small it was. One day, a friend of his, a turtle from the East Sea, came by. The frog looked at the blue circle of sky above him and noticed the turtle peering down into the well. The frog croaked, "Hello, friend. I am so happy you have come for a visit." Hopping about in excitement, he added, "I bet you were just thinking how perfect my home is." "I think it is too." The frog jumped up onto the rim of the well. "See, when I want to go out, I can hop to the rim in just one jump." Then the frog jumped back into the well. "When I come home, I simply hop down and find a cozy little hole in the broken wall of the well." The frog noticed that his friend, the turtle,
did not seem impressed, and so he continued on. If I jump into the water, it comes right up to my armpits and holds up my cheeks so I can rest. And if I choose to walk in the mud, it covers up my feet so they never dry out. Well, the turtle still seemed unmoved by these facts, so the frog thought of a few more things to boast about. When I look around at the wriggly worms, the little crabs, and the tadpoles, none of them compare with me. I am the Lord of all of these waters, and so I am satisfied. The frog thought it odd that the turtle had yet to offer some praise. Then it occurred to him that the turtle might not feel welcome in the frog's home. And so the frog said, "My dear friend, why don't you come in and look around my place?" The turtle smiled and slowly, so slowly, began to climb down into the frog's well. But before the turtle could get very far, his right knee got stuck in the wall's small opening. The turtle hesitated and then retreated. Then the turtle explained to the frog about the great East Sea, his home. "My friend," he said, "I live in a place so vast, you cannot imagine it. Even the distance of 1,000 li cannot give you an inkling of the sea's width. Even the height of 1,000 ren cannot give you the idea of the sea's depth." The frog listened intently, but was not convinced. He himself lived in the largest body of water he knew. But the turtle had more to say. In the time of King Yu of the Shi dynasty, the floods were 9 years out of 10, but the waters of the sea did not increase. The frog's eyes grew large at this fact. "And then," said the turtle, "in the time of King Tang of the Shang dynasty, there were droughts 7 years out of 8, but the waters in the sea did not decrease." The frog looked confused and alarmed. "The sea does not change with the passage of time," said the turtle, "and it is so enormous that its level does not rise or fall according to the rain that falls." "My friend," said the turtle, "I must tell you that the greatest happiness of all is to live in the immeasurable East Sea." After listening to the turtle's words, the frog began to understand that there were many, many things he had yet to learn, and many things he had yet to see.
Let's join together in a time of meditation. I invite you to spend a moment noticing the space around you. Be aware of your body in that space. And do what you need to do to feel grounded, perhaps closing your eyes, perhaps if you're sitting, putting your feet squarely on the floor or ground. Then, bring an awareness to your interior, your feelings and thoughts, concerns and joys and hopes. We know that some within our White Bear UU community and many beyond it in the wider world are struggling. Let's hold all those who are struggling in our hearts. May each person who is struggling find sources of healing and wholeness and love. In this shared virtual silence, I invite you to say aloud or in your heart the names of people you are especially holding tight today. Amen.
The offering today stays right here at WBUUC and helps us meet our two-pronged mission of growing our souls and serving the world in love. In addition to passing the plate, well, not today, there are 3 additional ways to give: on the website, by sending in a check, or by using the text to give feature on the screen. However you contribute, thank you for your generosity and your faith in this life we lead together.
Today's reading is Let America Be America Again by Langston Hughes. Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, seeking a home where he himself is free. America never was America to me. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great, strong land of love where never kings connive, nor tyrants scheme that any man be crushed by one above. It never was America to me. Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe. There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free. Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark? And who are you that draws your veil across the stars? I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery's scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek and finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. I am the young man, full of strength and hope, tangled in that ancient endless chain of profit, power, gain, of grab the land, of grab the gold, of grab the ways of satisfying need, of work the men, of take the pay, of owning everything for one's own greed. I am the farmer, bondsman to the soil. I am the worker sold to the machine. I am the Negro, servant to you all. I am the people, humble, hungry, mean. Hungry yet today, despite the dream. Beaten yet today. Oh, pioneers, I am the man who never got ahead, the poorest worker bartered through the years. Yet I'm the one who dreamt our basic dream in the old world while still a serf of kings, who dreamt a dream so strong, so brave, so true, that even yet its mighty daring sings in every brick and stone and every furrow turned that's made America the land it has become. Oh, I'm the man who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. For I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore and Poland's plain and England's grassy lea And torn from black Africa's strand, I came to build a homeland of the free. The free? Who said the free? Not me. Surely not me. The millions on relief today? The millions shot down when we strike? The millions who have nothing for our pay? For all the dreams we've dreamed, and all the songs we've sung, and all the hopes we've held, and all the flags we've hung? The millions who have nothing for our pay, except the dream that's almost dead today. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet, and yet must be, the land where every man is free, the land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me, who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain, must bring back our mighty dream again. Sure, call me any ugly name you choose. The steel of freedom does not stain. From those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must take back our land again, America. Oh yes, I say it plain, America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be. Out of the rack and ruin of our gangster death, the rape and rot of graft and stealth and lies, we the people must redeem the land, the mines, the plants, the rivers, the mountains, and the endless plain, all the stretch of these great green states, and make America again.
I have a confession to make. For many years during my long ministry in Wisconsin, I proclaimed a version of American exceptionalism. Oh, now, it was a somewhat nuanced view of American exceptionalism. I understood that genocide against indigenous people, enslavement of black people kidnapped from Africa and then their descendants, and the segregation that followed and still persists, and the persecution of every new group that came to this nation or were otherwise deemed other. I know that those things are deep, consequential flaws in the American experience. I would acknowledge those flaws in people like Thomas Jefferson, but then quickly lift up the better angels of their nature and how they embodied those better angels, especially in the founding philosophy and documents of our country. The problem, I believed, was a few thoroughly rotten apples among the founders and the early leaders of this country, that is, the people who not only enslaved other folks, but who resisted all talk of freedom and equality. And then there were some kind of bad apples, like Jefferson, who did a little of both. I clung to the premise that the United States is the most exceptional country in the history of the world. And I believed that if you took away these bad apple flaws, our democracy offers the most enlightened, progressive blueprint for a nation. To use the language that goes back to our Puritan settler ancestors, I embrace the notion of the United States as the shining city on the hill. Well, these last 6 years have fatally challenged my embrace of American exceptionalism. Through the lens of what I've learned, I now believe that we can't magically parse out flaws like genocide against indigenous people and slavery and segregation from this shining American city on the hill. They are part and parcel of what our nation has been and done in the world. I'm not saying that everything about the American experiment is bad. I'm saying that there are significant bad aspects and that they, like our shared history's good impulses, they are intrinsic to this country and who we are. I guess maybe nations are like people, flawed. Kind of makes sense. I've learned that there are three big problems with American exceptionalism. The first problem is that this idea of American exceptionalism itself has fueled some awful actions. As you've probably picked up, because I've talked about it a few times, I keep thinking about the American imperialist enterprise in the Pacific in the late 1800s and early 1900s, an enterprise embraced by many religious liberals, including many Unitarians and Universalists. In fact, many of our UU ancestors not only embraced this experiment, this imperialist adventure, they actually led it. They were motivated by a desire to share what they saw as the best and the brightest mode of governance that the world had ever seen. And they sought out opportunities to replace this beautiful model with what they saw as more primitive models of governance. They saw that our democracy was the best hope of the world. Who wouldn't want to have what we have, they asked. And if other people didn't seem to want it, well, that was the result of their ignorance, their backwardness. This viewpoint put many of our liberal ancestors on the slippery slope toward imposing this American system of governance, sometimes, if necessary, by force. This fueled the conquest and the annexation of Hawaii and the Philippines and other places in the Pacific. Our faith's collective embrace of American exceptionalism is why Unitarians and Universalists had an outsized role in American imperialism. My colleague Fred Muir found a reproduction of a painting from the Philippines exhibit at the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis that captures the sentiment. Before showing this picture, let me just share some background about that 1904 World's Fair. It took place 6 years after the United States seized control of the Philippines, though President Theodore Roosevelt had declared the war over and won in 1902, shades of George W. Bush's premature mission accomplished celebration. In 1904, insurgents in the Philippines still battled U.S. forces, and the Philippines exhibit, though, was the most popular spot in this 1904 World's Fair. It was estimated that 99 out of 100 people who visited the fair went to that exhibit. Evoking the genocide against indigenous Americans, the exhibit was appropriately called The Philippines Reservation. This title captures the truth that we had the ambition of making a massive reservation out of the whole Philippines nation. 1,000 Filipinos, many clad only in loincloths, were part of the exhibit. They were among the 10,000 natives imported from developing countries to be part of what one scholar calls the largest human zoo in the history of the world. This was the epitome of American exceptionalism. Well, the painting that Reverend Muir found captures the liberal idealism that animated this 1904 World's Fair. And it also animated the Unitarian and Universalist-led American colonization in the Pacific. So it's a little hard to see, so here's what's happening in this painting. Filipinos, some naked, are worshiping a white American surrounded by old glory. The American figure is bounteously sharing the riches of our American system. An angel watches approvingly from above, signaling that the ultimate source of these gifts for the Philippines was divine. This painting depicts how Unitarian and Universalist imperialists framed their work. They saw themselves as God's agents, sharing the divine gifts of America with the grateful poor and downtrodden and ignorant masses of the world. Reverend Muir doesn't let our faith off the hook about our outsized role in American imperialism. It was not just a few bad apple Unitarians and Universalists that led to our role in that imperialist adventure. The embrace of American exceptionalism was completely in sync with the common Unitarian and Universalist view that our faith, steeped as it was in the Enlightenment, that our faith is the shining religious temple on this shining city on the hill. No, the trouble was not a few bad apples. The trouble was our faith itself. Reverend Muir and all those pushing for our faith to examine its manifestations of white supremacy today are asking us to examine our faith itself, including this Enlightenment, kind of the Enlightenment waters that gave birth to American Unitarianism and Universalism. The second problem with American exceptionalism is that it simply is not true. These last years have exposed this truth, and the idea that I previously embraced, that our Constitution is so exceptional, so strong, so perfect as amended, that it can survive attacks from within our country. Before these last few years, I would have never imagined that an authoritarian ruler could take over our country. I could not fathom large-scale attempts, including violence, to throw out an election. I believe that our courts and our Constitution and the underlying goodwill and commitment of all people would prevent our nation from ever falling under authoritarian control. I know better now. I see how naive this was. And this leads to the third problem of American exceptionalism. If we believe that our form of governance is so exceptional that it is impervious to being taken over by an authoritarian, we make takeover by an authoritarian even more likely. I was slow to recognize, to work against the threat to our democracy because I thought our democracy was stronger than it turns out it was. And I believe that American democracy has survived these last few years barely by a thread. And I believe that our democracy is sicker today, that it is in greater danger today than on January 6, 2021. Awash in dark money, massive efforts to suppress voting, and organized and increasingly successful attempts to take over the machinery of elections and vote counting. All these things force us, I think, to recognize a difficult truth. Our system is poised for a coup in 2024. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it is a distinct possibility. It's also possible that an authoritarian will outright win the election in 2024. I don't believe these things are hyperbole. I think they're real things for us to wrestle with and to work on. Many folks in one of our two major political parties are working very hard to suppress votes, especially the votes of people of color and poor people. Many in one of our two major parties are working overtime and finding success in making it easier in the future for state legislatures and Congress to overturn election results that they don't like. The platform of one of our two parties states is urging the state to pass a referendum stating that it is ready to secede from the Union if and when it feels so inclined. Secession and bigotry walking hand in hand once again. Friends, July 4th is a day of celebration. It also should be a day of introspection. Making it such is not a new idea. In 1852, Frederick Douglass spoke these words at a July 4th gathering of mostly whites in Rochester, New York. The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not enjoyed in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by me. The sunlight that brought life and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. Those are the words of Frederick Douglass. Our spiritual Unitarian ancestors, Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau, took the occasion of July 4th to speak out against slavery. And Susan B. Anthony spoke about half of our population being left out of the American promise on the centennial in 1876. Douglass, Emerson, Thoreau, Anthony all asked the same questions echoed later in Langston Hughes' poem that Molly shared. When and how has our country lived up to the best ideals embodied in its founding stories and documents? When has it betrayed these parts or embodied the destructive impulses that were already present in the founding? What can we learn from our past mistakes? What can we do to truly safeguard our present and our future? How can we help America be America again, the land that never has been yet must be, the land where everyone is free? Langston Hughes writes, out of the rack and ruin of our gangster death, the rape and rot of graft and stealth and lies, we, the people, must redeem the land, the mines, the plants, the rivers, the mountains, and the endless plain, all the stretch of these great green states, and make America again. May we dedicate ourselves to this great cause, that the America that never was but could be, will be. May we dedicate ourselves. Our closing hymn, which so gives expression to the beauty of the story that Amy shared, is number 159 in the larger gray hymnal. This is my song. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join in singing.
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and wide. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover leaf and pine. But other lands have sunlight too and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, thou God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine.
Please join me in the closing words. May peace dwell within our hearts and understanding in our minds. May courage steel our will and love of truth forever guide us.